All right, so Wynn and I are here today, and we figure the rest of you might want to hear what I have to say. So we're going to record a little bit as I talk about complexity, and then Wynn and I are going to have a personal session. So intuition. So I am in the middle of this great professional development program with Queen's University this weekend. It's part of the book development program that I'm in. And so the director of the MFA program at Queen's, Fred Lebron, gave this great talk on complexity yesterday. And I thought, oh, I'm going to scrap everything I had planned for today and borrow from him because it's good stuff. So, and when do you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure before I got going. So what I love about what Fred wanted to talk about yesterday, I'm going to be reading from my notes, is that he was talking about how important complexity is to create worthwhile text. And so this especially comes into play now in the revision process, because you have your idea, you have your character, you sort of even have a narrative arc going on. But how do you make it something really rich? How do you make it something that sticks with your readers? And that's through complexity. And he says, he calls it multiplexity. But he says that you do it in 3 ways. And those ways are through meaning, through content, and through technique. And he gave an example of some things that you can do, like just to play with your narrative prose. And so some of the things you can do is take a look at your story and ask yourself, where can I add some metaphor? And he calls that a technique. Where could I just jump in and win? You've already got this going on, but for everybody else, where can I jump in and add something really specific, but also he used the word preposterous, just meaning that it can't really happen, but here it is happening, which is the fun thing about your story, Win, is that, suddenly dogs get to go to a fair just for them, and we can understand them, so, but where could, like in the case of my memoir, I might, the example that came to mind was horrible. So let me think. I might, want to say that my dog was really blue because she's a blue heeler. But she's not blue. She was, like that black and white Rome color. But something preposterous, like she stood out blue against the morning sun or something. And then think of an image, like something that you could picture for each of your 5 senses. So you're engaging the senses, right? This is something we've been pushing all the way through this course. So what is an image for sight? What is an image for sound, for taste, for smell, for touch, right? And that's hard, because you think of touch as a feeling, but how could it be something that you could, like the touch was as smooth as cold butter. And that's an image, right? The cold butter. And that becomes a metaphor. This stuff is all circular. So using a metaphor is a technique. Adding preposterous content, something preposterous is content. So again, he was talking about meaning, content, and technique. And all of these are techniques or content, and you have to create meaning out of using them. He says, use one synesthesia. And remember, synesthesia is where you have like something, one sense standing in for another where you wouldn't expect it. For example, she could see the smell of frying bacon, or he could hear the velvety touch of her skin, something where you trade out the senses, but do it with more sophistication than I can off the top of my head. And then finally, throw in like a proper name, person, or place. And in your case, that might be the name of the fair, right? In my case, I would probably be talking about like Incirlik Air Base in Turkey in my memoir, because that's one of the places we go. And so to go a little deeper into the 3 things that he was talking about, meaning, content, and technique, I just want to give his little definition. So meaning is like, what is your story about, literally, but also what is it about in a figurative way, meaning like, then this is the thing we talked about in English 510, a little bit in 520 as well. Like, what is the sort of universal theme of your story? And if your story's theme is, say, love, it's a little more complex than that. So take a huge philosophical idea like love and then bring it back to love between siblings, or love despite the pain of infidelity, or whatever your story is about. And then content is more like plot. It's literally what happens, but it also could be like what happens on the inside. So what's happening with the interior of your characters as well. And then with technique, he wants you to keep in mind that you're going to want to begin at the word level. You know, you're going to be varying your sentence structure. You're going to be thinking about things like diction, syntax, all the stuff we studied in 510, and keep pushing it. And then, so a lot of you are still working hard on making complex characters, even though we're moving on to emphasizing setting this time. And 10 facets of character to think about that he has are: 1, familial, which could also be generational, like who is your character's family. 2, recreational, like what do they like. 3 would be spiritual, or what do they believe in. It doesn't have to be a religion, it just has to be like a belief foundation. Economic, what is their status? What gender spectrum are they on? Romance or lack thereof. What do they physically look like? Geographically, where are they located? Where have they been? Where are they from? Social, what is their social environment? And he says political, meaning what kind of power structure are they existing in, and do they have power, and can they exert power? And then finally, I think this is number 11 out of 10, their psychological health, like their mental well-being. How are they? So you want things like complexity of dialogue, complexity of setting. You want to have complexity of form. So I just thought all those were really good to think about in revision, because this is when we really get back in and say, okay, I have this straightforward paragraph. Would something like a metaphor help? Or step back, like, so when I had my first call, which I had between our 2 Zooms, with my book development editor for the first time, she's like my mentor for this school year. She asked me on the spot to describe my memoir in 1 sentence. It was like, you want me to describe like all 257 pages of this in 1 sentence? But it came out to be something like, an everyday girl finds herself deeply entrenched in the military and builds the life she wants to live anyway. And that is kind of what the book's about. So I encourage you, Wynn, and all of you, if you're watching this video, to take your story and reduce it to 1 sentence. I gave 1 sentence for 257 pages. You can do 1 sentence for like 9. And when you get that sentence, it'll begin to tell you what your universal theme is, what your story is about. And then when you know that, make every word, every sentence, every image, every piece of complex dialogue, all of it needs to serve that purpose. So, I mean, for example, when if you're telling your story, and you said it's possibly a children's story, but about these dogs who have a great time at this fair, you know, are you teaching children that dogs are complex thinking beings as well? Are you trying to explore friendship between 2 beings, which is, you know, Ursula and starts with an L. I just forgot the second character's name. I'm sorry.
Luna.
Yeah, Luna. I even have a dog friend named Luna. So you want to figure out what your story is about, and then have everything that you're being graded on this rubric. And I really admire what the course designers picked for the rubric, because if you're getting these things right, then you're going to be telling a good story. So have your, I'm going to just name off what you get graded on. Have your narrative arc serve that bigger purpose of what the story is about, and make sure it's complete. If you don't remember what that looks like, look at Freytag's pyramid, FREYTAG' pyramid. Google that and it'll remind you what a narrative arc is like. And then you're graded on character development. So how complex and rich and dimensional is your character, your main character, your protagonist, but also I can, you know, compliment you if you're doing well with your subsidiary characters as well. And then point of view, the course designers are adamant that you have one point of view in these stories. So even if you're being experimental, what they're trying to do is help you build the foundation that'll allow you to be experimental later. So this is still an early creative writing course in your MA, and they don't want you to be experimental now. They want you to practice the basics. So you need to have one point of view, whether it's omniscient, whether it's, first person, whether you're limited into a third person. But if you hop around to points of views of other people in the story, you'll end up losing points on it simply because I'm reinforcing the course designer's effort to make you practice the basics. Then you have setting both through description, which is like, is there a couch in the room? Is there a Ferris wheel at the fair, right? And then you have sensory language that goes with setting, because you can't put us readers into the scene with you until we know how the 5 senses, or 6 if you want, are engaged with your story. And then finally, other than, of course, how your formatting looks and stuff, the last thing that you're graded on story-wise is rhetorical devices. And they're particularly pushing you towards figurative language, because that's the place that your story will become more complex. So, I recommend that you revisit figurative language, but also rhetorical devices as a whole. And a great place to do that is literarydevices.net. That's a really good resource for like finding definitions of things you're working on, especially, this is module 7 now, right? We're doing module 7 now.
Yep.
And you have just the one revision due, but in module 8, you'll be thinking about, again, terms and defining those with experts. And literarydevices.net is a great place to look. Even though we can't tell who wrote it, it's good quality material. Okay, any questions? Okay, I'm going to hit stop on recording so that Wynn and I can have our own time.